What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the weapons in Black Ops 4 multiplayer. In today's episode, we're going to be moving on to the MOG 12 shotgun, and first up, as always, let's have a look at the damage. Now the damage with the shotguns is quite interesting. We've got a base damage as well as a per pellet damage. With the MOG 12, this behaves very similar to the shotguns from Black Ops 3. We have a variable base damage depending on the range that you're at, but we do have a fixed per pellet damage with this shotgun, unlike with the Rampage. So our base damage with the MOG 12 ranges from 110 at the longest ranges that you can get a hit marker with it, all the way up to 135, which will allow you to get a one-shot kill because we have 8 pellets, each dealing 2 damage per pellet. So as long as you're hitting all of the pellets up close, we do have a one-shot kill potential with the MOG, but aside from that, it will be a 2-shot kill and never more than a 2-shot kill. As for our rate of fire, this is 60 rounds per minute, which is pretty slow, but with rapid fire, we can bump that up to 78 rounds per minute. As for our statistical minimum time to kill, technically, if you're dealing a one-shot kill, your statistical time to kill is 0 because the first shot starts the timer, and if you're killing on the first shot, that's 0 milliseconds. If, however, you're either in a range where it takes 2 shots to kill, or you miss some pellets and therefore it's going to be a 2-shot kill, your time to kill drops off extremely dramatically, all the way down to 1,000 milliseconds or 1 second. With rapid fire, this will drop off to 769 milliseconds, which is still extremely slow compared to the other guns in the game. As a result, especially without attachments, if you're going around going for 2-shot kills consistently, especially in face-to-face gunfights, you stand very little chance against any sort of a competent enemy with the MOG 12. As for the MOG against armor, what this will do is it basically just makes it so it's always going to be a 2-shot kill, but still, it will never be more than a 2-shot kill due to that base damage. Getting into our ranges, as you can see here, we can get a hit marker out to 12.5 meters or 500 inches with the MOG 12. Anything after that, you won't be able to hit your target. But more importantly, our one-shot kill potential without attachments, assuming every pellet hits, is only about 3.5 to 4 meters. This means you have to get really close to the MOG 12, and it's not forgiving at all. Like I said, you have to hit all of the pellets. As for the long barrel attachment, this one actually has no impact whatsoever on your one-shot kill range, but it does have an impact on your ability to hit the enemy, and realistically speaking, at least in core game modes, this isn't all that useful. As for the barrel choke on the other hand, keeping in mind you also have to use long barrel in order to use barrel choke, this will more than double your one-hit kill potential, which is awesome. Now you still have to be very precise with your shot, it's not very forgiving, but with the barrel choke, you actually get a decent one-shot kill potential. As for hardcore modes, if you hit a pellet with the shotgun, you will be getting an instant one-shot kill, no exception. So as a result, using long barrel is excellent because it increases that range where you can get that hit. However, using the barrel choke in hardcore modes isn't recommended because it won't increase your range any more than just the standard long barrel, and it also tightens up your hipfire spread, which we'll see in a little bit, which will actually make it harder to get a hit on your enemy. You're better off with just long barrel and not the barrel choke if you're playing hardcore modes. This brings us to headshots, and just like with all of the shotguns, we only get a 1x headshot multiplier, which means you gain no extra damage from headshots, and therefore headshots are literally useless with the MOG 12. As for hipfire, as you can see here, all of the shotguns have the same hipfire spread, and it is worth noting that even while moving, this is your hipfire spread, unlike with all the other guns, which will expand as you move. Movement has no impact on the hipfire spread for shotguns. But I also wanted to point out, if you're using long barrel as well as barrel choke on the MOG 12, it will literally cut your hipfire spread in half. This makes it a little bit harder to hit your enemy in the first place. However, it does allow you to hit more pellets more consistently with hipfire rather than having to aim down sight. Speaking of aiming down sight, when you aim down sight with the MOG 12, you actually reduce your pellet spread by 50%, which is a massive reduction, so it makes it much tighter and more accurate, and therefore you're much more likely to hit all of the pellets rather than missing a random pellet. So if you're starting to stretch to the outer limits of that one-shot kill potential, I would recommend aiming down sight with the MOG 12. I also wanted to point out, if you're using long barrel as well as choke, like I said earlier, your hipfire spread is cut in half, but you still also gain a massive benefit by aiming down sight with these attachments. It will reduce your pellet spread by 65% on top of that already 50% reduction, and therefore, as you can see there, you have an extremely tight pellet spread, and this will make it almost like a slug shotgun when you're aiming down sight. Moving on to magazine capacity, the MOG 12 definitely struggles in this area. We only get 4 shells with 16 total starting ammo. To make matters worse, there is no option to use extended mag or hybrid mag, so you are stuck with 4 rounds in the tube. As for our reload time, the base reload time with no attachments is going to be 0.72 seconds for the first shell, and then 0.55 seconds for every shell after that. As for using fast mag, it'll be 0.65 seconds for the first 2 shells because you actually reload 2 shells at once somehow with fast mags, and then it will also be 0.55 seconds for the next set of shells if you're reloading more than 2 shells. In addition to that, we also have the option to use speed loader on top of fast mags, and this will allow you to reload all 4 shells at once in just 0.62 seconds, which is nearly instant. This brings us to our handling and mobility, and we get an aim down sight time with the MOG 12 of 250 milliseconds, which is pretty standard for shotguns, but we can cut that all the way down to 175 milliseconds with quick draw, so we actually get a very noticeable reduction while using quick draw. As for our sprint out time, this is pretty standard for the shotgun category at 250 milliseconds, but with Gung Ho, we can cut that down to 150 milliseconds, which I would highly recommend you do. As for our movement speed, this is standard at 100%, and our aim down sight straight speed is also standard for shotguns and quite fast at 77%, but we also have the ability to use the stock attachment, which will bump your aim down sight stray speed all the way up to 102%, which is actually the same aim down sight stray speed as using stock 1 as well as stock 2 on the Rampage. So with the MOG 12, the stock attachment is basically like having stock 2. So that pretty much covers it for all of the important stats of the MOG 12, but we do have an operator mod, and this is Dragon's Breath. With Dragon's Breath, when you shoot enemies, it will also start them on fire and deal extra damage. Now just having a look at this, if you're using the Dragon's Breath operator mod with no other attachments, it doesn't actually extend your one-hit kill potential range. However, it will make those one-shot kills within that range more consistent because you get that extra burn damage on top of that, so you don't have to hit as many pellets to get the one-shot kill. It's actually the exact same story if you're just using long barrel with the Dragon's Breath operator mod. It doesn't extend your one-hit kill range at all, but it will make for more consistent one-hit kills within that one-hit kill range. The true power of the Dragon's Breath operator mod, though, comes with the barrel choke attachment as well. So if you're using long barrel, barrel choke, as well as Dragon's Breath, you have the potential to get a one-shot kill at the maximum hit potential of the MOG 12, and it's really consistent at getting those one-shot kills as well because you have a really tight pellet spread with that barrel choke, and you really only have to hit about half of your pellets to be able to burn that enemy to death and get that kill on them. So having this combination of attachments will mean that you're almost always going to get a one-hit kill unless the enemy is using Flak Jacket. Flak Jacket is essentially a perfect counter to the Dragon's Breath operator mod because when you're going up against somebody that has Flak Jacket, they don't die from that burn damage, and therefore your one-shot kill potential is now the same as if you didn't have that Dragon's Breath operator mod. So just know, if you ever get into one of those lobbies and you run into somebody that's using the MOG 12 with Dragon's Breath, switch over to a Flak Jacket class and you can completely ruin their day. So that's it for the operator mod. Now let's get into the attachments before I get into a couple recommended class setups. So first up, for optical attachments, we have the ability to use the ELO sight, which generally I feel is not necessary at all. Sometimes if you happen to have that extra class point available and you're using long barrel as well as barrel choke, the ELO sight can be nice just to make sure you're nice and centered on your target and therefore you're maximizing the number of pellets it hit. Even then though, it's really not necessary and it probably won't make much of a difference for you. As for the other attachments, when it comes to using long barrel, unless you're in hardcore modes, I wouldn't recommend using long barrel on its own. It doesn't really help you that much. Like we saw earlier, it extends your maximum hit potential, but it doesn't really noticeably affect your one-shot kill range. Using that in combination with barrel choke, though, is extremely effective, and in core game modes, I would highly encourage you to do this. As for fast mags and speed loader, I feel like both of these are unnecessary. It can be nice sometimes to use fast mags, but I feel like speed loader is complete overkill since it's only 4 shells anyways, and you can reload those 4 shells pretty quickly without these attachments. Rapid fire is an excellent choice in core game modes, especially when you don't have barrel choke yet. If you are working through the levels, rapid fire is great because you will generally be going for those 2-shot kills, so it's nice to get that second shot off a little bit faster. This just leaves us with quick draw and stock, and with quick draw, I just don't feel like it's necessary. Even if you are planning on aiming down sights, I don't really feel that quick draw is necessary, and same thing goes with stock. Generally speaking, I'm not going to be aiming down sight and strafing around corners with this shotgun, and therefore you won't really see me use these 2 attachments very often. So finally, let's get into a couple great example classes I have with the MOG 12. First up, this is my class setup for core game modes with this shotgun. It does require you to max out the levels, but it is absolutely worth it. With this, we're using long barrel, barrel choke, as well as Dragon's Breath for those really consistent one-shot kills unless you run into a Flak Jacket user. Our gear is going to be stim shot so we can get back in the fight as soon as possible after taking damage. Perks are going to be Scavenger because you can actually go on pretty good streaks with this, and you only have 16 shells to start with, so it is nice to have Scavenger equipped. Gung Ho, just so we can get that near instant sprint out time, and Dead Silence so the enemies can't hear me coming and they won't pick me up on their acoustic sensor. This is, without a doubt, the go-to shotgun class for core game modes in Black Ops 4. You could play around with a couple variations, maybe swap out Scavenger for Flak Jacket, just so you can really annoy the people that are trying to use this class against you, because Flak Jacket will prevent you from dying to that burn damage. But this particular setup, especially since that last update, is incredible in this game. So this just brings us to the hardcore class setup that I'll use with the MOG 12, and with this one, we're using rapid fire, so we can deal with multiple enemies a little bit faster. It just allows us to get our next shot off faster. Long barrel, because we do want to extend the maximum hit potential of this, which long barrel does, but we don't want that tightened spread of the barrel choke, so we're just using long barrel on its own here. Our gear is going to be body armor, which is excellent in hardcore game modes because it will often allow you to soak up a bullet in a gunfight. Scavenger, once again, because you do have the ability to go on streaks with this particular setup. Gung Ho and Dead Silence for the same reason as our other class, and also Team Link with this. Team Link is amazing in hardcore modes because if you see where your teammates are, it makes it a lot easier to find enemies. And also, you'll notice I have a GKS on there. That's mainly just because we had an extra class point available at the end. And the GKS is amazing in hardcore modes without attachments. And therefore, if I get into a situation where I get myself stuck and somebody's got me pinned down at longer ranges, I have the ability to swap to that GKS, pick that guy off, and then I can swap back to my shotgun for those close quarters engagements. And with that, that's going to wrap up today's gun guide on the MOG 12 shotgun. As always, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of this gun? Especially after that last title update that we got where the MOG 12 was buffed. What are you guys thinking about it right now? Do you think it's too powerful, not powerful enough, or do you think it's just right as is? Personally, while this shotgun can definitely be annoying to run into now, there's also a big part of me that likes that we once again have that shotgun playstyle with a one-shot kill pump action shotgun that's actually relatively consistent if you're accurate. I'm happy that that playstyle is now back and once again very viable. Also, now that I know that Flak Jacket is a super effective counter to the Dragon's Breath Operator mod, I really feel like that keeps it in check. If you run into somebody using this class setup, swap over to a Flak Jacket class and it's no longer as big of a deal. Now, of course, as always, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, we've now covered every single gun that's currently in the game, aside from the SG-12. I will leave a link to the playlist down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.